That was the change.
Zui, hi.
Yeah. Stay there, we'll stay in the order. You?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Excuse me.
Okay.
Every
Good morning, everyone. Fantastic to be here in Vienna and to see people both in person and some people online as well. So hi to everyone who's watching remotely. For me, the most exciting thing is, many times I went to conferences over the years talking about the need for a digital air cargo revolution. And I think sort of this is the first conference where we can talk about the revolution that's happening and well underway.
Yeah.
It's not a future thing, it's not a vision, it's now a reality. Really particularly excited by the fantastic panel that we have here today, leading with two airlines. And I have to say, these are the two airlines who were the leaders in digitalization. So I can tell you from our perspective, Freightos owns a platform called Web Cargo, which is a digital platform. And the very first airline to connect to us digitally was Lufthansa, already in 2018. And the second one in the whole world was Air France KLM in 2019, I believe. So you've got here on the stage the two airlines who led the digital revolution. And since then, about 40 airlines have created digital connections. But these are the guys who led it. In addition to two major airlines, we have on the stage a major airport and Budapest Airport, that's Loginx, and we have a large freight forwarder in the critical area of specializing in aid, represented by Ashima here. So what we're going to do before we get started, if we can get the slides up, because we have such an important panel, I want to give everyone on the panel a chance to present just a couple of slides each by way of introduction. Can we get our slides up for the panel, please? You do it. No, I think you do it. No? No. Hey, at the back there, do you have the PowerPoint presentation, please? Okay, we will...
There it is.
Yeah?
Yeah, you want me to start?
No, well, I'm not seeing the slide. Here we are. Here we are. Okay.
there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, now, is this the first slide? Is this your slide?
This is my first
Okay, great. Yeah,
slide.
please go ahead.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, Robert.
So thanks, Sui. Indeed, it has been my first trip last night in 2.5 years. So I'm also very happy. I'm really a preacher of digitization and doing things online. But I'm also very happy to join today physically on this summit. So my name is indeed Robert. I don't pronounce my last name because you don't remember that. Yes, I'm responsible for our channel strategy. A couple of years ago, and it's already 5 years ago, as a cargo airline, we started to wonder why we couldn't, let's say, also digitize our commercial processes like every other industry is doing. To buy a television online, to make your, to book your personal tickets online. Why couldn't we also make sure that the cargo industry was able to make a cargo booking online? And that's how we started, in fact, in 2017. It was also the moment that we chose to invest in our backend structure to replace it by a system which was able to consume also the dynamic way of communication, so API structures. And in that sense, we have built our, let's say, infrastructure, which you can see at the top of the slide, which also led to not only having one commercial distribution channel, which was customer service at the time, to make all your bookings, but in the end, we were able also to create our own digital platform, which is called My Cargo, where our customers could create and book their bookings online. And with that, and based on the API structure, I can remember the first discussions with Sui and the company Freightos and Web Cargo, to be honest, because Web Cargo is focused on air cargo. To talk about a shared vision on digitization, and that is how we decided also to extend our distribution channels to connect to a third-party platform. At the same time, of course, there's also forwarders who have their own systems which we're able to connect. So the big forwarders have their own systems, they invest a lot in it, and they wanted to have a direct API connectivity as well. And of course, there is a huge group of forwarders who are using software providers who also want to create this direct API connectivity with forwarders. And this is how we have built our digital infrastructure, and the digital infrastructure is now as such that both the direct connectivity with custom forwarders are built in the API structure, but also our customer service has access to the same amount of information via that API structure, so that there is a seamless, let's say, service across all the channels, and that we can be on any channel where the customer wants to be. And that led to the fact that in 5 years' time, we were able, and this is the figure of last month, that almost 70% of our bookings are currently done via an API connectivity, which we call direct online. So all the bookings which are currently done are via the API. It could be via a third-party portal like Web Cargo, can be done via My Cargo, but also via direct API connectivities in forwarder systems.
Thanks, Robert. Really underlying what I said, 70% of your bookings are digital now.
Yes.
So this is a revolution which has happened to a large extent.
Absolutely, yeah.
Good. Over to Ashima from Loginx.
Thank you, Zui. Thanks. I really appreciate WOF to giving this opportunity to share this platform with the major stakeholders of air cargo industry. I'm representing Loginx International and more specifically Loginx India. Can we have the slides, please?
Yeah, the order was a bit different. Here we are. Sorry about that.
So Loginx has more than 35 years of experience in aid and relief cargo business, which is our niche, which means that if you talk about more than 80 humanitarian organizations, we are associated with them. We are the preferred logistics partner for USAID Global Fund, President's Office for HIV drugs, malaria, and other aid and relief business transactions or supply chain requirements. You can see on the slide over there, we are into sustainable development, we are into aid and relief pharma, and also responsible to take care of the infrastructure and development programs world over. More than 140 countries or developing world we are serving, and we are catering from US, to Australia, to the developing world in Asia, Africa, and South America as well. Can we go to the next slide, please? Thank you. We claim to be logistically the best, and in India, we started in 2019 with just 10 people who are GDP certified. And the first business was aid and relief cargo to Africa. Still, it is one of the base load for us, but within a span of 3 years, we have grown around 200% year on year. Our USP, which is the unique selling proposition, is our 24/7 availability, which is also one of the aspects of digitization, and that helps us to be 24/7 available. We are a GDP certified company because we are catering to aid and relief, and that demands for quality services. I myself is a GDP certified professional. We talk about on time and on budget optimal last mile delivery. That's also working through the network of partners in all the developing countries. So this is all about a small introduction of Loginx as a company. Thank you.
Thanks, Ashima. Now we go to Josef from Budapest Airport. I can't figure out where I'm supposed to point this thing so it will actually work. Okay.
Maybe it's in the air.
Maybe this is not the
Somewhere
best
in
to
the air,
demonstrate how developed we are. Electric things.
Okay.
I'm fine with the Lufthansa presentation.
Yeah, we'll get you, don't worry.
You can tell mine. So
Okay, let's do it.
Yeah. Okay. So meanwhile, I can speak.
Start talking in the meantime, Josef.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Is that you?
Yeah.
That's mine. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. So my name is Josef Kossuth, head of cargo Budapest Airport, and I'm very happy to be here again after the first event in Bratislava, what we also loved very much. I didn't bring very long presentations, just maybe two main messages. One is that I wouldn't like just to advertise Budapest Airport in the cargo, but this slide is to demonstrate that if an airport would like to be successful in the cargo, it can be, even in heavy times, even in difficult times. We increased our cargo volumes in a 2 years period by 75%, despite of the COVID-19 situation. We are handling now closely 200,000 tons cargo in a 12 months cumulated basis. And in a 5 years time, we doubled our cargo volumes at the airport. What we did may be a bit different, and that also my message to the market, and when we talk about our region, I strongly believe that all our cargo competitor airports like Vienna, like Prague, like Warsaw, like Munich, the bigger ones above 50,000 tons cargo in a year, they have enough volumes in this region, and I believe that these airports can also generate more volumes. Even when we started the whole thing, Budapest Airport was a bit the gateway for Hungary, for the Central Eastern European Union. There was the message, there was the plan. What we feel now, we talk to clients on the market from China, they started considering us as a gateway towards the EU. And that's a big surprise and a big change if we compare this now to a situation 5 years ago, when whole Europe was supplied with some major gateways in Western Europe. Now companies are looking for new solutions, and if an airport invests into that, it is a dedicated team. Not every airport has a dedicated cargo manager. We have one. And we have a team also which is here today. If you want, we can talk about this offline directly more during the event. But I believe that there is a big potential. And it can be utilized, but this is a hard job. And I remember, I'm coming, how would I say, out of the business. I'm an economist, I'm not a logistic expert. I started my whole cargo career 7 years ago. I had no clue, even 7 years ago, who is a freight forwarder. At the first step, everybody told me that, hey, Joseph, please you just talk to the airline. Don't talk to the GSA because that's a different story. Don't talk to the freight forwarder because he's the talk of the airline. He's the client of the airline. Don't talk to the shipper because the shipper is the client of the freight forwarder. I'm coming out of the market. I'm talking to everybody. We are neutral. We try to support everybody, and this is working. And this will be now a big help for us in the digitization because we have a community. We talk to the big shippers, to the freight forwarders, and when we need to implement a new cloud-based cargo community system in Hungary, we have the connection and the network. Could you change the slide? I tried to a bit structure what we are doing at Budapest Airport in the cargo development. It's a kind of 3 pillars of cargo development, palace or church or temple, how we can call it. First, and try to explain a bit how we look at the digitization. This is one of the main elements of the developments at the airport. For sure, cargo connectivity, you need freighter connections, you need belly cargo connections, you need road feeder services. Even a company started talking to us 2 months ago who is doing air cargo with railway in UK. They use passenger, how would I say, trains for air cargo moving. They want to come to our region. So there are new things what you can do in developing your connectivity. Infrastructure is a basic thing. Without runways, taxiways, apron, cargo facility, you cannot grow. So that's a basic element of the infrastructure development. Our cargo city started its life in 2022 years ago. It is full. So we need to expand this now. And the next phase of the expansion will be ready by end of next year. And the third thing is the most difficult one, is the development of a cargo environment. And as my boss René explained, we believe that an airport has to take a very active role on this because the airlines, they have projects, they have initiates, they work on digitization, they work on several things. Then the freight forwarders, they have other things. There are the global associations like IATA or TIACA who try to create standards, and they create standards and good technologies, but on a given market, somebody has to take the lead. And as we believe, an airport has a given advantage. Even this is not an authority, we are not an official authority in Hungary, we are an airport operator. it has its power, its neutral role to stimulate and develop things, and digitization is a key pillar, I believe, to make our air cargo industry more attractive, more sustainable, more efficient in the long term. Because now in the next 2 years, we have nice extra volumes coming because of this global mess in the logistics, but we have to think on long term. Yeah, thank you.
Good, thank you, Josef. And over to Teresa at Lufthansa.
Yes, thank you. A lot was being said already, so I really keep it short so that we can get into the discussion. Adding up the picture of digitization and air cargo for Lufthansa Cargo, I just brought one slide. Robert was mentioning earlier the online bookings. Same here with Lufthansa Cargo. We also try to make use of the different marketplaces, be it Web Cargo, be it Cargo One, be it our own marketplace with our e-booking. We are also doing a lot and seeing a lot of potential in the digital connects via APIs. Of course, what is on the journey with us for some time now is e-freight and the e-airway bill. Our latest campaign says 100% and not less. We're not going for less. We are still not there, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't mention it. And of course, we have other action topics as well, be it a better connectivity with stakeholders on the customer side, but as well as you mentioned, Joseph, also with the airports and other key stakeholders. And this also tackles then the e-services, the e-tracking opportunities, but also add-on services, be it a pre-check, giving forwarders and customers an early feedback if there is something wrong or something to correct with their shipment, to then contribute to a more resilient supply chain and to faster reaction and responsiveness in case of irregularities. And also from the pricing and the rates, we all experience now a very dynamic environment, and it will for sure stick like it for a while. And also there we are working on further progress to how to translate this into business processes together with our partners and customers, of course.
Thanks, Teresa. Okay, good. So if I can get to it, I've got a couple of slides myself. While I try to click this, can we get some help moving the slides? Okay, never mind. We'll do this verbally. I started Freightos 10 years ago. The reason was I had been a shipper, and I was shocked at what the experience was like, booking both air cargo and ocean cargo. I thought I was in the 18th century. You know, you sort of wait days for price quotes. When you get the invoice, it doesn't match the price quote. One price quote is double the other price quote. It's like really like a very, very old. We can just cancel the slides now. We'll go without. Thank you. Really, the entire thing was very, very old-fashioned. And I thought, you know, if retail can go online, passenger travel can go online. Already 20 years ago, why can't our industry go online? So I started Freightos with that purpose 20 years ago. And our platform for air bookings is Web Cargo. We offer it for free for connecting to Air France-KLM and Lufthansa and about 40 other airlines. And it's grown incredibly well thanks to our airline partners and over 3,000 forwarders. It's grown 100x in the last 2 years. So it's really been exciting to see this revolution where the forwarders and in the end the shippers are booking instantly, digitally. They know what the options are. They know what price they're going to pay. So that's Web Cargo. And onto our panel, I'll start with Teresa and ask, okay, this is a big change. In short years, we've gone from 0% digital bookings, 0% electronic airway bills to a big percentage, up to 70% we heard from another airline. So how does this impact your organization from a people perspective?
Well, it is a challenge, honestly speaking. So we are really learning how to deal with it and how to also react. And it's shaping the daily routine of the colleagues and of the staff involved. And you really, I mean, there is a huge potential in it because we can, as was mentioned earlier already, get rid of redundant work and like typing some information which is already available in another system, creating sets of same and redundant information, and then focus on the real the real actions which create value to the supply chain and to the customer in the end. But it's really mind-setting and a change of how we are working and how we are interacting with others, with customers, with partners, with handling agents, with airports. And yeah, we are just in the mid of the journey, I would say.
Sounds good. Joseph, what about from an airport perspective? Is this impacting you already in any way?
Yes, so also the eRWB penetration is some 60+% in Hungary, which is, I would say, it is not so high. So I would expect something like 90–95% in the future. What we started now, that's a big thing, that we will bring a new cargo community system to the Hungarian market. So it is not only the Hungarian market, it is the market of our Bud Cargo community. And we will launch the tender next week. And it has also a connection to this EU Stargate Green Deal initiates. And we have a consortium together with Brussels Airport, Toulouse, and Athens and Budapest joined forces and has common projects. And what we expect that by mid of next year latest, we will have a cargo community system, a cloud based on the market. And all these airlines and handler and forwarder systems, and also with all of these functions of the e-checks for the authorities will be connected to it. So that I would say it is not an easy thing to push through a project like this. It is super difficult, but we trust this will be ready by mid of next year.
Sounds good. So Ashima, let's hear the freight forwarder perspective. I think the environment has changed for you guys. You used to have an Excel sheet with the winter prices and an Excel sheet with the summer prices. Now the prices are changing twice a day. How's the digital revolution impacting your experience as a freight forwarder?
So Zivi would like to say that we are embracing the change, though at different levels. So people, and I come from a country which is almost 20% of the world population, and at different levels of understanding of digitization. So thankfully, 75% of our country is having the literacy rate, and we have a very good IT background. So people are very pro in accepting that change. And I think not only India, but overall our logistics industry is embracing that change. Though we have started getting into digitization before the pre-COVID era, but yeah, pandemic, I will say, has created a catalyst, has become a catalyst in initiating the digitization. And that was the only thing that kept freight forwarding business going and increasing during the lockdowns, during the pandemic, when nobody is able to go out. Without any human touch, still we are able to manage the supply chains. I do agree there is changes in the pricing, but it's even for everyone. It's not only for forwarder, it's for everyone. It's for also the airline. So the reason for changes in the pricing is not digitization. It is the capacity issues, which has been created by the external factors. So digitization is actually telling us how to deal with uncertainties. So that is my stake.
Thanks. So Robert, you're getting some free advertising here.
Yeah, it seems to be.
Maybe it's not free. Maybe they're going to send you a bill for all of this promotion for Air France.
No problem.
But anyway, how's your team being impacted by this big change?
No, I think there is still a lot of challenges. Teresa said it as well. I think if you look at the full customer journey, which can be, which is out there, I think still a lot is not digitized, and that's mainly. We have invested a lot in the commercial processes of making a booking, but I think there are still a lot of servicing processes which needs to be digitized. So in that sense, the impact is that during COVID, we also saw a tremendous need on servicing online, especially on track and trace. We saw a huge increase on the website. But I think there is also a need of further increasing the customer journey, like a good modification of your booking, for example, when your shipment details are changing. And very soon, Air France-KLM will launch a very interesting feature where a booking can be changed without losing it. So instead of canceling a booking and making a new booking, your booking remains on the flight, but you change your shipment details and you get the new instant price. And that creates also a lot of efficiency and impact on our organization, because currently our customer service organization is really making those changes. So I think if you look at how is the organization impacted, I think from the first part of the customer journey to make a quote and to go into a booking, I think we are very mature. If you look at all the next steps after the booking, based on booking modifications, but also servicing activities, I think there is still a lot to gain. And especially also the combination of commercial data compared to operational data, I think that's an optimization we still have to make.
Yeah. I think also the airlines who were leaders, like both of the airlines on our panel, you got lucky in a way, because you didn't know that there was a pandemic coming. No. But you mentioned there's more use of the track and trace, and the reason for that is that your schedule keeps changing, right? Exactly. Flights are being cancelled, there's lockdowns in China, everything's changing every day. Yeah. Yeah. That was not the case before COVID. And so I think the airlines who were ready with digital tools when this pandemic hit and everything became so dynamic, really benefited. Okay, so, we've heard from the airlines and the airport and a forwarder. We don't have any shippers on the panel, but we have some big shippers in the audience. And in the end, that's what it's about, right? In the end, it's about giving a better experience to the importers and exporters, and ultimately it's about getting the goods to the consumers who want it, or to the manufacturers who need it. So from your perspective, maybe we'll go in the opposite order now. So Robert, from your perspective, how does this impact the customer, the end customer, the shipper?
Now, I think if you digitize processes and you make everything online, you create also a lot of transparency and new opportunities. By connecting systems, I think you can build building blocks to come up with new solutions. And I think for every step in the cargo chain, so going from shipper to forwarder to airline, I think there are many ideas possible to create new solutions for any partner in the chain. So the shipper is really dealing with the forwarder, and the forwarder with the airline. But yeah, I think digitization gives a lot of new opportunities. Look, for example, for a Booking.com or an airline who is also selling rental cars, an airline without having a car because we only have planes, selling insurances, but we don't have an insurance company. And I think that is the same also for the situation we are in. Currently, the airlines are really focusing to connect to third-party portals and to make direct API connectivities. But I think if you look at a full scope of digitizing everything we have in the cargo world, many new opportunities will occur in future time. If it's done by startups, if it's done by existing companies, I think everyone can benefit from it.
Great. Ashima, how about for you? You said you're embracing digitalization. In what way will you pass on the benefits to your customers?
So, I will say that freight forwarders are actually the customers for airlines, and we are serving to the suppliers and the buyers. So, in terms of, I would agree to Robert that it brings more transparency, but digitalization can't be at one place. It can't be through airport, or it can't be in the airline. It has to be contiguous from point A to point B. And with respect to customers, for sure, it brings a lot of flexibility in terms of working at different time zones, because the shipment from India to Japan can be at different time zones, and the customer sitting in Japan can see what's happening with his shipment or his, because of the digitalization. So that technology gives him the power. It really makes them empowered, and also we consider them the representative of our customers. So we are also getting more empowered because we can see into the system and also challenge the human touch because of that system. So it makes us more empowered. That's my message. Thank you.
Joseph, how about for you?
As I see all modalities in the logistics like air cargo, sea, railway, usually it has its core, how would I say, product base, what is usually transported by that mode. But there is always a competition somehow amongst, at least overlapping the circles. And I believe that this actual environment with these extra difficulties, challenges because of the COVID, then the container issues in the sea transportation before, global trading imbalances, it made a very heavy pressure on the logistics. And if you talk about a shipper, at the end, there is a factory in Hungary, in Austria or Slovakia, and the shipper wants to know when its part will arrive from India or China or somewhere or US, and where is it? And in this very actual situation, when I talk to freight forwarders and I talk to the sea transportation, they have no clue. So sometimes the sea shipping companies can give an indication that maybe your container will arrive in 90 days, between 120 days, somewhere, somehow from China on the sea. It is still very difficult. COVID closed seaports in Asia, something. There are always difficulties. And I believe that for some reason, and just because of the given, how would I say, environment of the air cargo, we should be more advanced on that. So the transport time of the air cargo is an average in the world 4 or 5 days from door to door. It is because of the air transportation, the aviation, it is a more followed, controlled environment. We should be more advanced than the others in digitization. And at the current stage, it is not the case. And even if you talk to some people on the market, that 5-10 years ago, they said even nothing happened in the last 50 years. So I guess I heard this from Glenn Hodges, that time he worked for IATA, and he said 8 years ago in a conference that if you took an air cargo guy from the 50s, 1950s, and you took it to the very actual situation around 2000, he will look around and he will continue his job because nothing changed. So good thing started. It is very good to say this, and I guess that as an aviation and air cargo transportation, we should take this as an advantage to work together, collaborate, and create a better environment in digitization, in tracking, in resource sharing than the other modes. And then the shippers will be satisfied. If the shippers are satisfied, then all of us are satisfied. So that, yeah.
But, Teresa, what about from your perspective? Obviously, your customers are generally the freight forwarders, but the ultimate customer is the shippers. How will it impact them?
Well, it was already said, I think it's transparency, which is really key here, and we still have a lack of information or good information at the very beginning. Often enough, and you mentioned it, it's that we see a shipment being booked, but it's not with the final data, so it might change, there might be a problem, and even, and especially in the situation we are, where capacity is a really precious good on our planes and in the whole industry, it's really important to have better information at an earlier time, and we are trying with all the action fields we are working in to provide that to our forwarders, but we also wish that they go to their shippers and talk to them, explaining why it is so important to have the right piece of information at the earliest stage possible. And not only from the very beginning of the shipment's journey, so to say, but really covering the whole transportation and transport plan of a shipment, also covering after-sales services, for example, and covering accounting processes. We heard that earlier in the first slot today, and demurrage costs and so on. So it really spans from the planning of a shipment to the booking, to the transportation, and also the after-sales. And all the authorities are also an important player in this journey.
Yeah, thanks. I want to add maybe one comment from what we're seeing at Freightos and WebCargo, which is, and a lot of you spoke about transparency right now, and we're seeing that in a very interesting way, where your customer at the airline is the freight forwarder, but we're seeing that some of the freight forwarders are starting to be a lot more transparent with the shippers. So the freight forwarders used to only sell a consolidated service, right? They'd say, okay, 4 to 6 days, we're not going to tell you which flight it's on. Now, that's the traditional way that freight forwarders sell air cargo, but we're seeing a change where some freight forwarders are really embracing transparency and letting the shipper choose a specific airline and a specific flight, which is a level of transparency the shipper's never had before. And I think quite a revolution in how air cargo is sold, where the shipper can choose, in some cases, choose the airline, choose the flight digitally. And so it's quite interesting to see that some of the freight forwarders are passing on that transparency, so some are not yet. But that maybe brings me to my next question, which is the relationship between airline and forwarders, which I think has been fairly stable for about 20 years since KLM tried to change it.
Don't go there.
Don't go there, okay. I'd love to say that everyone's forgotten it, but somehow everyone seems to remember the experiment that KLM did more than 20 years ago, maybe, right?
I was not there at the time.
You weren't there, yeah, and I wasn't in the industry. I think most of us weren't in the industry yet, but somehow this is remembered. For those who don't know, KLM tried to create a more direct, tell me if I get it wrong, but create a more direct sales model to the shippers. The industry rebelled at that point, and that experiment was stopped. But in that time, the relationship has been very stable, and the business model of freight forwarders around doing consolidation and balancing volume and weight has been quite stable. But now there's potential that it might change. So maybe starting with Teresa, do you see already, or do you see in the coming years, your relationship to the freight forwarders changing at all because of this digitalization?
Well, changing, of course, I would say it's a continuous development, but what we should not forget from an airline perspective, that the freight forwarders, they are really adding value, which we cannot provide, or which we are not tending to provide from an airline perspective. So the forwarders are our most important customers and interfaces. There are, for example, some tripartite approaches when it comes to a very specific freight being flown, but generally speaking, I think there won't be a revolution on this field or on this side of the relationship story. But development, of course, and also the communication will be more and more direct via virtual channels, different sales channels. But what will stick will be the direct collaboration and the meetings and the face-to-face communication. And I don't feel that we really see a huge change there.
So, Josef, you're an airport, so you're not an airline or a forwarder, but maybe we'll just take the question for you from an airport perspective. Do you see not the technical, but the commercial relationship changing in any way with your customers because of digitalization?
But even I can make a comment to this forward-airline relationship, as I believe the freight forwarders are the decision makers of the logistics industry. That's my belief.
Okay.
Maybe, I don't know whether it will change once, but at the current stage, they choose whether this is sea transportation, air cargo, whether it is Budapest, Vienna, Prague, Frankfurt, Amsterdam. This is their decision. The shippers, they outsource their logistics. There are very few initiates, like Bosch, for example, with the TMC system. So there are initiates for the insourcing, but I guess that's a given fact for a while. I have seen certain airlines try this, and there are integrations for sure on the market. There are the integrators, and now the several freight forwarders are now establishing buying airlines, also one from Denmark, and there are some others. So there are changes on the market, but I guess that this fact that the big freight forwarders will stay strong decision makers of this industry, I guess it won't change for a while.
Okay. Ashima?
I would like to thank Teresa and Joseph for giving that importance. And
because you are a freight forwarder.
But I really do agree that collaboration is the only way to go forward. And there's no way we have to work in tandem, work together in a win-win situation. Yes, we do have a stake with the customers because we only can take care of, we can help them in adding value to their supply chain. I will give you a small example because I come with the most complicated supply chain country. We have we have to guide a customer based in Hyderabad, which is this airport for pharma. It's a hub for pharmaceuticals. When it's a corona, COVID, and the airport is locked down, you have to shift it to Bangalore or Chennai, and you can move it. So we have to train them, we have to guide them that it is easy and it can be done in one day. So you can shift your cargo. If it's a lockdown in Karnataka, you can shift the cargo to another airport. So, and also we are working closely with the airport authorities because we are trying to make them understand what are the challenges of the customers. You know, in terms of supply chain, some airports like, we got the presentation of Budapest in India. Some airports are really very digitization and they are embracing the change. They are getting themselves modernization. For example, Bangalore Airport, which is also the IT hub for India. We prefer to sell the airports and also the airlines, which is more embracing the change, and they understand that that is the only way. And I think that is also the role of freight forwarder. When we talk about digitization, we are actually the protagonist in making that change. If we get our people, our fraternity to get training in this change management, we can really help to work together to bring that change for the better of all of us. Thank you.
And Robert? Although I agree with Teresa that forwarders create added value to the shipment process, from a theoretical and a visionary perspective, I do believe that it will change. And for the simple fact that when you create transparency and create the full journey fully online, I think every step of the journey can become a building block. And with the transparency, people can get control over what they want. And I think it's the same like in 20 years ago, you went to a store, it was a travel agent for asking to make a booking. And the travel agent was guiding you to go somewhere and created the booking at the airline. I didn't do it myself. That was the old days. And I think this will also happen in the freight forwarding environment in the industry, that if all those, the shipment journey becomes building blocks, yeah, why not? Shippers can get their own control in choosing, for example, I want this airline to be combined with this forwarder, and maybe I want this authority building block attached to it, and that they create their own package. I think it can happen, but yeah, the airline will not initiate.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'll add just my comments. I tend to agree with Robert. I mean, I agree with the panel. I agree with the panel that freight forwarders have a critical role and will continue to have a critical role.
Yes.
And airlines and forwarders will continue to collaborate. I certainly agree with that.
Yes.
But I also agree with what I think Robert was saying, which is that relationship will change because of technology.
Yeah.
First of all, as we said earlier, the forwarder will start being more transparent with the shipper, and the shipper will start to be a lot more involved in choosing which flight they want. But also, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not, you're the airlines here, but I think in the past, when everything was done manually, the airline was saying to the forwarder, we don't want to deal with small shipments. You consolidate for us, bring us a big shipment, which is already balanced in terms of density. And now suddenly, when things are much more automated, you can use your computer systems. It's much easier for you, I think, to deal with smaller shipments. You've got dynamic prices. You can try to balance your plane in a more automated way, not only relying on the forwarder to balance the density. So we're seeing some changes. The relationship remains important and strong, but we're seeing some changes where there are some things which are becoming more automated and less needed for the freight forwarding team to do. So that's what we're starting to observe. At the same time, the freight forwarders are benefiting from automation and reducing some of their cost. So, they used to have a whole team calling up the airlines saying, who's got capacity? Now they've got platforms like Web Cargo, like our competitors Cargo One, going directly to the airline's site. And so they've got better tools now, and so the forwarders are reducing cost as well, which I think is exciting. We've got about 10 minutes left. Maybe we could check if there's any questions on the Slido. And this is also an opportunity if anyone would like to raise their arm and raise their hand and ask a question. We'll be happy to take questions. Yeah, please. Just talk loud, please.
I would just like to make...
If you could just introduce yourself, please.
Robert, I was Thank you. And was going to the United States, to New York. And we moved the containers, and for reasons that can happen, a container missed a vessel in Hamburg because it arrived too late. And the customer in New York was screaming and said, I need this thing in the shelf of May department stores in 3 days. Now you automate that process. And that could be a difficult thing. We had to unload the box, we had to change it to air freight, we had to get it on a plane the next day. I'd be sort of interested to see how potentially the direct relationship between shipper and airline or shipper and ocean freight carrier could replace that. Thank you.
Do you mind if I
Please,
respond?
yeah. You've got the same first name, so.
Yeah. I can understand the question, and for me, it's absolutely right. Solving problems is absolutely an added value of a forwarder. However, what currently is happening, let's talk about, for example, a pharma shipper who wants to have an understanding about his shipment. He's starting to call the forwarder. But if the data from an airline is fully transparent in the chain, why is he calling the forwarder and not going directly to the airline's website to follow the track and trace? And still there could be a problem, and then it fully depends if it's on the airline side or that the forwarder can solve it. For me, the importance is that make sure that the industry standardize data sources, and make sure that everything is transparent to create efficiency to any party in the supply chain or in the cargo chain, and then by making it transparent, efficiency can also be gained in order to give information from the airline directly to the shipper. It doesn't mean that, for example, on consolidation, my personal opinion is let the airline first invest in operational quality before we start talking about if an airline should consolidate. I don't think that should be the airline's role. So in that sense, but I think transparency of data, transparency of shipment information creates a lot of efficiency also in the relationship between shipper and forwarder. And still, it will take a lot of time because like you see, and Sri knows that, and Teresa also, but and maybe the others also, is that the way we distribute data towards each other is still not standardized. APIs are still not standardized. I mean, we are running this IATA modernizing cargo distribution topic with IATA to really push to standardize the commercial processes. But I think we also have to do that. They also try to do it with run record on the operational side. And it was interesting to hear in the speaker panel of this morning that also they were looking for standardization. And I think if data becomes transparent and every party in the chain makes sure that there becomes a standardization how we distribute that data, relationships will change. Again, I will not say that the airline should take over certain roles, but I think it really can change the control of what a person wants to do.
Anyone else want to comment specifically about the question of exception management and the role of forwarders in exception management? If not, I've got a quick comment, but anyone else first?
Yeah, for sure, I would like to add. And as Mr. Galbavi also mentioned, the automation and giving transparency to everyone can still happen, and it has to happen. Nobody can stop it. Because everyone is working towards improving the current processes. But still, there is a special place for expertization and experience and dealing with the situation and where the value addition comes from. And it's not only one aspect. As I mentioned, digitization has 3 C's. It has to be consistent all throughout A to B to C to Z till the end. It has to be consistent, means it should be not only in one country, it should not be in 2 countries, but it has to be universal. And it is not like that Lufthansa should have one process in one country and another process in another. And I have seen it, especially in my country, which is almost 20% of the world population. There's still differences, even it is same digitization process. So if it takes 1 day to get the supplier gets themselves registered in Bangalore, but it takes 7 days to get themselves registered in Mumbai. The process is same. It's all the same. But there, the export and experience comes in place, and where we are not only taking care of one lane like air or ocean, we are giving the complete package. And still, I would like to, you wanted to share, Robert, about travel agents. Yeah, the role actually, earlier it used to be theater, and now it is all Netflix and all. So, but still there are actors. So forwarders are like actors. So we will change the stage, but we'll still play.
Agreed. Well,
Thank you.
I want to say one quick comment on this. I agree that exception management is a huge part of what this industry deals with. We have strikes and weather and accidents and pandemics, and so a big part of what forwarders are dealing with great expertise is exception management. Having said that, we are seeing partial automation of exception management as well. Not full, but partial automation. I have seen with my own eyes that sometimes a flight is cancelled, and the airline's computer system fully automatically books it on another flight, informs the forwarder, informs the shipper in real time, completely automatic. I've seen other cases which are semi-automatic, where the shippers inform that a flight is cancelled, and it takes a human being, but they go onto our web cargo, they go onto another platform, they go onto your website, they rebook it in a minute, literally in a minute, something which would have taken 2 hours. So even in exception management, we are seeing some automation gradually, I would say. Partial. All right, good. Well, we've got just 2 minutes left. Is there another quick question from the audience? Okay, so we're going to do a rapid fire on sustainability. Important topic. We're not going to be able to give it enough time, but starting with you, Teresa, 30 seconds on how Lufthansa's thinking about sustainability.
Wow, that's tough, yeah. I mean, sustainability has many aspects, and of course, crossing now to digitization, it's also about getting rid of the paper, which is the most obvious thing. But Lufthansa Cargo, of course, is also working on sustainable aviation fuel, on power to liquid, on alternatives to reduce the carbon emissions, of course. And I think what is the most important message, each and everyone can contribute in the supply chain, and there are lots of bits and pieces which can do good in this topic.
Perfect. Joseph, 30 seconds on sustainability.
30 seconds. Also, my boss Ronnie said some words about this, but that it is really in the strategy of Budapest Airport. We are carbon neutral so far with also with some credits what we bought, but we have real actions. We want to be real carbon neutral in 2035. And so that's really on the spot now. What I have to mention, that's an interesting thing about the increasing role of these direct cargo hubs, what we are doing, or Vienna is doing. So when not only big gateways are somewhere and they supply whole Europe, how sustainable is to have a flight from, I don't know, from Asia, then to fly to, I don't know, to Western Europe, and to truck it back 2 days to Romania.
Right.
And that's the same in the air cargo transportation as well.
We're going to leave it with that example, a great example. Ashima.
For me, sustainability comes back to training and skill development. I think at all levels, we should ensure that people involved who are doing the work, ground handlers, custom clearing agents, should be skilled enough at all levels to bring the sustainable development, and they should not think short-term. They should be able to think at whatever level they are about the long-term results of their actions.
Good, and Robert?
Yeah, it's huge. Like Teresa said, also in Air France KLM, we announced a huge sustainability program around the company. It's a hot topic, and my example would be also, let's identify also for our customers which channel is most sustainable to use in the future.
Great, and I'll add just for the last 10 seconds, I think it's also about utilizing the capacity. So if long-term, if the air holds are 50% full, that means that the carbon footprint per kilo is double. Yep. And so the digitalization, filling the planes more efficiently, is also a sustainability issue. Well, let me just say a huge thank you for a wonderful panel on an exciting topic. And yeah, I look forward to seeing, next year, 70% will hopefully be 80 or 90%, and we'll all complete this digital revolution
We have
together.
our
Okay.
target.
Good.
Yes.
So thank you very much.